True peace, everybody. It's People Nuwaupian back and again with another video. I'm doing part 2 to the first reaction video I did with the Nuwaupian's video slash audio. What was it called? The Nuwaupian News Reptilian Takeover or whatever. And the last part we left off was them stealing from the nature books with the section about the pygmy gods. So we're gonna leave off there. And we're gonna see what other deception they have been spreading and what other stuff from the nature books they have been taking and corrupting. Let's get started.
Things were also living under the waters. They were living under the waters on this planet. Also, if we go to Patrak, the formation, it also further tells us that you had the Natharu who were living under the waters. Let's see.
Just for the record, there's no such thing as no ancestors called Natharu or whatever they're saying. But let's move forward.
It says the Patahite on verse 69 of Patrak, the formation. And I think I'm going to read from verse 69 to I think 77. It says, as Patahite females growing 4 feet and 5 inches, the males 5 feet and 4 inches, called the hydropygmy by the giants who came to Taha, planet Earth, whose females were 7 feet tall and the males Tasu, or 9 feet tall. And remember, Nuwaupians, the original Jasad, flesh and Damam, blood deities, Panatharu, on Kawak, Taha, planet Earth, birthed the first world people, Panagaru, the Negroids, on this orb, Taha, Earth, had to be sufficiently prepared by natural nature, spiritually and physically, as well as mentally, to withstand the great heat and also the high humidity of a very young and most powerful atmosphere.
Alright, let me show you where they got that from. We can go to the Introduction to the Nature of Nature, Book 2. And during the during the time that the pygmy gods are existing, there is no giant beings or nothing like that, and there's no, like, they don't know what they're talking about. But I'm going to show you exactly where they got this from. If you go to the Introduction to the Nature of Nature, Book 2, it's a section where it talks about the hydropygmy. And one thing that I do want to point out is that they only talk about the hydropygmy. Like, it's 9 pygmy god races, 9 of them. And I'll include that a little later, but let me show you where they got this from. I'm going to read, I'm prepared today. It says, this is book 2, number 77. It says, listen to reason. The flesh and blood gods and goddesses, the ancestors of the Ethiopian race, start being born after mother goddess Earth receives her spirit beings, the sun god and goddess, the earth god and goddess, and the moon god and goddess. And her vegetation formulates and grows to maturity. Of the 9 races of gods and goddesses that inhabit the top half of of the Smat Circle of Order during that time that the top half exists, the first to be born at and from the source of the Nile River in equatorial Africa was the hydropygmy. Remember, the original flesh and blood gods and goddesses of planet Earth, who were the first people on our orb Earth, had to be sufficiently prepared by nature spiritually, mentally, and physically to withstand the great heat and also high humidity of a very young and most powerful atmosphere, which existed at birth and beginning of the universes. The hydropygmy was first an ovuloid, as shown on page 67 of this presentation. By the word oval, the writer means shaped like an egg or shaped elliptical, like the elongated circles. And then I just cut off at that point. He just said that this information came from the Patrak, the formation, and this book has been out before then. It's been out before then. So when are y'all gonna? And plus, this book don't have all of that crap, all that extra Nuwaupic garbage replacing the word Earth and ancestors and Natharu and all of this other stuff. And it doesn't even make any sense. So this is showing that they're taking stuff, and it's word for word. You heard the section. You heard what I just read, and you heard what he just said. The only thing is that they're mixing it up. Then I'm going to go down a little bit where it's talking about the 4 and 5 feet thing. says, listen to reason. Evidence of the gills and buoy system still remains in human beings, but the tonsils and appendixes of humanoids have no particular function now. To make it clearer, tonsils of humans used to be gills, and appendixes of people used to be buoy systems. The hydropygmy ranged in heights from 4 to 5 feet, and they were indeed amphibians, able to live on land and in water. Where did you think they got that 4 and 5 feet section from? I'm not making this up. You know, I got all these hate comments on the first part, all this hate, but I'm not the one stealing. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just showing the facts. So now we're gonna move forward.
Atmosphere, which existed at birth and beginning of this Wahumakwan, or universe. This atmosphere attracts our Salafu ancestors. Still, you Patahites, Nubans, were the very first to stand, walk, and speak here. The first creation was in the deep waters. Then you were thrown on the dry land, Saka, land, by natural occurrence or natural occurring events in nature such as tidal waves, hurricanes, and tsunami. Remember, this was long before any other humanoids. The female spoke the first words 54,000 years ago. This seed was survivors.
Alright, can you please prove that females spoke the first word ever in existence? That doesn't even make any sense.
Show and prove. You have to come with that evidence. Come with the receipts. Show the proof of what y'all saying.
Let's move forward.
Many did not survive and died off with the original 9 races to remain, and only 4 features of our own race, Patahites. So like I said, I went from verse 69 to 77 in Patriarch called the formation. Okay, so when we're talking about that particular Patriarch, we're talking about the fact that it explains to us that Natharu were indeed living under the waters first. So you had beings who were living here under the waters before you ended up having Anu come here 500,000 years ago. When you're reading that book, Questions of Dr. Malachi New York about the beginning, it explains how you had shifts occurring all the way back 17,250,000 years ago, while these beings, the Octoads, were actually living under the waters. Also, when you go to the Holy Tablets and you go into chapter 3, when it's talking about Alelu, known at that point as Sidious, and it's talking about the serpent people and the dragon people that were here under the waters. They actually were already here building. They're responsible for those tunnels under the water. They're responsible for the energy.
That doesn't even make any sense. And plus, the pygmy gods were not serpent people or dragons. They had scales because they were amphibians. They're not serpents or dragons. They're just reaching now. Now it's just becoming ridiculous. They're just making up fairy tales, and they hopping from book to book, and each book they hop to sounds like a contradiction. They don't even know what they're talking about. So let's keep listening to this garbage.
On this planet, right? And with that being the case, it says in the Holy Tablet that they had peaceful ways. And the reason why Sidious or Alelu didn't want, or he was worried about dealing with Anu when he came, is because they were afraid of their disagreeable ways, calling the Anunnaki in that sense disagreeable. Okay. Now here's the other thing. Anu and Alelu had already known each other prior to this event, right? So what we're learning now is when we say reptilian or when we say draconian, that's not necessarily saying a negative connotation to a being.
Bro, what are you talking about,
Because you're still talking about reptilian beings and reptoid beings.
And there are many different species of reptilians.
Exactly.
All right. But when the previous person was just talking, the one that was speaking first in the video, that in the part 1, before the second guy started speaking, he was making it seem like reptilians were these negative, ugly things, and making them seem like they're so horrible. So it's just like he's trying to come in and try to make it seem like, okay, he's trying to correct where he's wrong at from Nuwaupian to Nuwaupian, but they both what they're both saying is contradicting, and it both doesn't sound legit, and there's no facts or evidence to prove nothing that they're saying. Nothing at all. You cannot say that the pygmy gods were reptilians, because they were not. They were not. They were not reptilians. Y'all just trying to make stuff up now. Because what people don't understand neither is that the pygmy gods, yes, they had scales, but they also had helix solenoid hair all over their body. This picture of the reptilian that they're using in the video is hairless. Where do you think we got our hair from? It's the sun, and also our ancestors, which is the original pygmy gods and goddesses, they have helix solenoid hair. So come on, like this is you can go into book 3, Introduction to the Nature book 3, if you want to know more about hair and where it came from and things like that, or just check out more videos from any of the Noonie Boos. That's Anu, Tarnoon, me, Tarnoonet. Just look around. It's all like the information is there. Or read the book, read and study and reason. You know, what people don't understand is when you get into new, it's a mental thing. You have to sit down, mentally process the information, decide if you want to accept it or not, and keep studying. It's not a competition. It's not a race. Everybody's gonna get it on their own time if they do get it. You know, that's just how this whole thing works. Let's continue on.
And as we're beginning to get more information now, we're understanding that you have disagreeable reptilian and you have agreeable reptoid.
I think
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Okay. So who are the disagreeable reptilians? So are y'all saying that the original pygmy gods and goddesses are the original? I mean, not the original. The positive reptoids, the reptilians that you're speaking of, none of this makes any sense. None of this makes any sense.
Reptilians are working together.
Exactly. And people also have to understand, like when you go to the Ashatat scroll on page 3, when it starts listing schools, it says Sumerianism is one of those schools. So of course, if we were going through the school of Sumerianism, then according to that school, then who's the highest on the totem pole in Sumerianism? Anu, right? If we go back and we're in the school of Islam, then you say Allah. You know what I'm saying? If we're in the school of Christianity, then we say, well, it's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost.
Titles change.
You see what I'm saying? So the titles change, but it's not only titles changing.
Stop making it seem like these schools of thought are just schools of like things that you get, like as an open school to just learn things. No, y'all going through different religions. Y'all was acting the parts along with your master teacher, dressing the parts, all of that, depending on what religion you was in. Stop trying to make it seem like, oh, this is why. You're basically saying because y'all jumped from one school to another, that it's okay to contradict the last school. The last school's information is contradicting this because of that. That this school is contradicting the next school because of this. It doesn't make no sense. Y'all always trying to justify being religious and having misinformation that y'all keep calling outformation. It's ridiculous. Let's move forward.
I was explaining when I was speaking to a brother earlier today, what we're beginning to understand is this. When you're talking about Sumerianism, when you're talking about those 2 tablets that Moses was given back to his people from that covenant that Abraham had already made prior to, those 2 tablets that you're talking about are actually the Atrahasis and the Enuma Elish, which are Sumerian tablets. Why Sumerian tablets? Because what was happening during that time in Mesopotamia, after you had these beings being grafted, this mankind, who you end up seeing as this Caucasoid race now, right, having Pleiadian DNA as well as reptilian DNA within themselves, and then they had more mixtures.
First off, mankind or all races of people that grow straight hair by nature. It's not just the Caucasian race, and because the Caucasian is one of the last races to come in, that means that there had to be other straight-haired races, which, for example, is the Phoenician, black skin with straight hair. Come on.
They don't know what they're talking about.
Having the canine, the porcine, and simian inside to make them, right?
Right.
All those experiments were actually being made and being done in Mesopotamia, but that was all dealing with the Caucasoids. That's what we're learning now. We're understanding that while we were in the school, it made sense for us to put ourselves in that position. Because just like every other school, we had to place ourselves in a position to actually feel what it feels to be inside of this school. You felt what it felt like to be a Muslim. That's why when we moved and shifted out of Islam, you literally have people who got off of the path just because they were so in love with the religion. You understand? And when he left it, people jumped off because they were in love with Allah, not realizing that, okay.
They all try to say that. They all try to say that. When you're confusing people, they don't know which way to go. That's how it works. You jumping from one religion to another, then to another, then to another, and then y'all changing your costumes as you go along. That's confusing. That's confusing to anybody in an ignorant state.
Okay, here's a name that's still Mesopotamian gods, Mesopotamian deities, and when you find out who the Mesopotamian deities are and their purpose for making religion in that sense, that was the Anunnaki making that religion to keep the beings that they grafted within their due bounds for them to be able to later eat. While our ancestors dealing with Ptah, dealing with...
Can please show facts and evidence that the Anunnaki is making religion? Okay? Okay.
They were already in Africa and they had nothing to do with that except for when Enki came over asking Ptah and Sakamta, how did you figure out how to do this thing genetically so that these beings would be stable genetically? Because if you can recall, dealing with the Anunnaki and dealing with Mother Ninti, she was failing in her experiments at first.
That's right.
You follow? So in order for Enki to figure out...
Y'all not making no sense. Contradictions. Let's say it together. Contradiction.
What needs to be done, and you can refer to actual fact number 22, called 18 plus 18 plus 1 equals 37 genes of the mitochondrial DNA. It explains that Enki had to come to Ptah to be taught the way as to how to utilize that formula within the mitochondrial DNA so that they won't continue to be having these totally diseased and botched up beings that they were making. So yes, indeed, it became a situation where Enki and then his son Nabu and Marduk, well, Enki and Marduk and Nabu came over into Africa and then they mixed their seeds there. But one of the beefs that Enlil and Enki had was that Enki decided to take on the way of the Natharu.
Another thing, what's good with the accents when y'all be saying these words like Patarak and Natraru and all this crap? Like, y'all sound like y'all trying to imitate another race of people. Y'all don't even sound legit. Moving forward.
So there's now we're in this outformation where we're receiving more updates, which is why we have our classes on Tuesday. We call it outformation class and update. What's happening is we're bringing this outformation that we've been receiving from the Holy Tablets period. And as the Master explained, he said the Holy Tablets is indeed outformation, but he said it's outdated outformation because it was still written in a way at that time, being that we were coming out of religious school. We had to still take baby steps out of religious school to be able to step into where we are now. This is Nuwaupian.
Okay, now it doesn't make any sense. You can't just say that the information is now outdated because it was written at a later date. That doesn't make any sense. Or at a past date, that doesn't even make any sense. One thing I can say about Noon, starting all the way from the non-balls all the way down to book 3, consistency. Consistency is key. That's how you know a person knows what they're talking about. Everything from each book follows to the next. There's no contradiction. Nobody's being a hypocrite. Y'all just trying to make excuses to keep stealing. That's just the thing. Y'all seeing that the stuff that y'all was learning in the past was garbage. Then he clearly said here that we were in schools of religion. So just say that. Just say that y'all was practicing religion. Y'all can't sit here and say that y'all not religious. If you are practicing a religion, you wear the whole attire. You calling Dr. York Reverend, Pastor, all of this stuff, the Lamb, all religious stuff. Y'all looking at him as the Savior. That's religious. In the Noon book, that it tells you what a Savior is. And the time for the Savior has passed. Moving forward.
He said, now you're in the hereafter. Now you're in the time where you can get what I actually came to give. So that's where some of that confusion is coming in. And so then the best thing we can say for going forward is that, like one of the sayings of the Master is, all the power one needs is patience. So we have to maintain our patience as students because he's still feeding us more. You follow? Refer to my brother the extraterrestrial. And this is information that he had been speaking with our clan mother since like 2004 about, where he was giving the jewels at that time, but we couldn't receive it yet. Everybody wanted to be under Anu rather than saying, oh, there's more. Now the initial approach of the Anunnaki, Ninhasag, or Ninti, sister of Enki and Enlil and daughter of Anu, was to break up chromosomes into pieces of DNA, inject those pieces into cells, and then search for ones that could replicate unaided. However, there was a problem. Because of the diseased genes of the Kakasu,
What?
any DNA pieces she injected immediately
Bro, what are you
infiltrated
talking
and
about,
hijacked
man?
the replication centers. So, Enki with Ptah of Panatharu in Afahreika, Africa, came with a solution. Ptah knew that the circular pieces of DNA cannot hop onto chromosomes because they have no stick.
I had passed that word in one of the other books that they read. Since when does Africa stand for that? Afri-Reye-Ka. Reye is not even a real word. So this madness gotta stop.
That's not a part of our doctrine. I can't explain somebody else's doctrine to you. You may want to ask them that particular part, but then for the second part, when you're talking about Enki, from a Sumerian point of view, Enki meaning ruler of Ki or earth, that being was indeed a being mentioned in Sumeria, and that being is a brother of his own brother named Enlil. Enki was a half-brother to Enlil, and Enki's mother was a being who was already here living under the waters before Enki's father came here. So, yes, Enki is a Sumerian deity or supreme being, being that he had followers, during their encounters and their accounts. When you look back into tablets like the Enuma Elish and the Atrahasis. All right, when we're talking about angelic beings, you got the word angel. That word comes from a Latin word, angelus, right? That word means messenger, right? So, when you have, and you can't see it, you can? Yeah, I can't help you, I'm sorry. It's spelled, you know how angelic is spelled, A-N-G-E-L, add O-S to it, and you got angelos, that's Latin, and it means messenger. All right, hopefully on the screen he'll be able to put that up for you all, but our markers are real bad right now. Sorry about that. But basically it means messenger, right? Now, throughout religion, we've been taught that you had these beings that came down to this planet from outside of this planet, right? So by definition, if anything comes from outside of this planet, that means it's above and beyond or extra, right? And then this planet that you call Earth, another word that you use for Earth, is also terrain or terra. So like when you're saying that the Earth is forming itself, we call that terraforming. It's talking about the Earth forming. So you're dealing with terrain. So you're dealing with Earth when you say terra.
I bet
Trap House on the track.
1,000 Nuwaupian dollars he about to say that's where the word extraterrestrial came from.
And then when you say astral, you're talking just like what we said earlier when the brother was talking about lunar astrology. You're talking about something that's of or pertaining to the stars. So if you ask a person, where is God? Or where is heaven? 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, up there. And when they say up there, the context that they're saying is off this planet, outside of this planet, somewhere out there, beyond this planet, right? So, if you had any beings who came down to this planet, or any things that came down to this planet, such as meteors, asteroids, all these things are, by definition, extraterrestrial or extraterrestrial. You follow? I know you're new to this, that's why we're going at this pace, okay? So by definition, all those things are extraterrestrial, right? Okay, so if there's ever been an account
I want my money.
of beings coming to this planet to help or to hinder, right? To build or to destroy, right? Any beings that came down to this planet from outside of this planet were extraterrestrial beings. So when you say that a being is an angelic being, angelos means messenger, so the being has a message. But when you say where this being came from and you said it was off this world, then that being is extraterrestrial by definition. If anybody says, where is God? And they say, well, he's in heaven. You say, so he's not here. He's extraterrestrial by that definition.
No. If you're saying that angel or angelos means messenger, you can't just link that to an extraterrestrial being and say, oh, the being has a message. If you're telling me that, if you just gave me the definition, your definition of what extraterrestrial was, it had nothing to do with being a messenger. Y'all just reaching for stuff. Y'all just trying to put all of these puzzle pieces together that don't fit. It doesn't fit.
Now, when you go to older stories and accounts in history that predate your Bible, you find that there was no problem in these beings accepting that they had beings coming from outside of this planet, coming down to this planet, and then having a hand in creating people and doing different things on this planet. So it was already understood that those beings were extraterrestrial already. And this is one of the reasons also why we say these beings are supreme beings. Because not only were they extraterrestrial as far as their location, but when they came from where they came from, they were coming from older worlds with older knowledge. So their thinking was superior to the beings that they created on this planet. So that makes them supreme by that definition as well. So when you ask the question, can you explain angelic beings as accounted for, I'm assuming, and tell me if I'm correct or wrong, as being accounted inside of religious understanding of angelic beings, which is really the only place that you have mention of them, then you're talking about extraterrestrials encountering with human beings on the planet. So that's what angelic beings are. Some people will say, oh man, that's far-fetched. But then we say, well, guess what? For you to be on this one planet, inside of this one solar system, that's a part of this one galaxy, and there's billions of galaxies, and even more suns, trillions of suns, and beyond that, and you think that your life form is the only form that there is out of all these balanced multiverses, that would be much more far-fetched for you to say that this life form is the only life form that there is, for you to say that there is no life anywhere else. That would be more far-fetched. You understand? Especially with all the evidence that goes against that notion. You follow? So yeah, so that's what angelic.
Alright, y'all. I'm so glad this is over. I'm glad it's not as long as the first one. And
Trap House on
one
the
thing I
track.
can say is that is just the most deceptive thing I've ever heard. Starting off 2000 Caucasian Christian year 2018. And it's honestly, it made my ears bleed. Like I usually don't care to listen to the Nuwaupian stuff, but this, as I was listening to it and just seeing the plagiarism and how much they don't have any originality, it's whack. And I'm not gonna sit here as a noonie boo and just sit here and allow people to just steal, like it's nothing. That goes to Mansour as well. I already did a video on that because somebody was like, oh, all you guys do is basically try to get shine off of Dr. York and his case in pedophilia. Not one time did I mention the case. I barely even mentioned York because honestly, it's his minions speaking now. York is in the prison. Whatever he's doing, or if he's even sending this information, it's unknown. Nobody knows. Well, I'm going to speak for myself. I don't know if York is even giving them this information or if they're just taking the nature books and doing this on their own. Because this is what they do. Now that York's not around, people scamming each other. You see Nuwaupian assassin calling the Nuwaupian women HOES. I'm not going to say it because I know there's probably, I don't know who watches my channel as far as children and things like that, but come on. You guys keep talking about unity and how you have a tribe and you have a government in the United States, which makes no sense. But y'all are inconsistent, y'all hypocritical, and nothing that y'all do makes sense. So, and it's showing that y'all crumbling. Y'all are crumbling. Y'all not united at all. Y'all not united at all. You have to also accept the fact that your master teacher is going to be where he is. You guys are going to have to accept that. And the two people in this video, if one message I can say is just, y'all got to study more and y'all got to stop plagiarizing. Y'all have to, like, that's just where I'm at. If, you know, the decision is up to you. Stop plagiarizing. And I don't know, the first guy in the video, he kind of sounded like Shaka Amos. And he wasn't really a good teacher. He wasn't really a good teacher to me. The other guy, he basically was contradicting what the first guy was saying, but both of them were still spreading deception. So this is what happens when you join a cult. For those that have ever been in a situation like this, where somebody's pulling them into something, to believing something, and they get caught out there. This is what happens when you join a cult. These people, like, you get into a situation that seems different, and it's not good. It's not good, you know. But I'm not going to go too deep into Dr. York and his wrongdoings. But Nuwaupians, it's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. It's time to stop plagiarizing. A lot of Nuwaupians, you know, they are seeing the truth. They're seeing the truth, you know. But those that are still stuck, I don't know what to tell you. But as long as this plagiarizing continues and y'all not giving the credit Afro Uno deserves, it's gonna keep being more videos or, you know, more things to show and prove that y'all stealing. It's like man sour too. That goes to you too. But I hope y'all enjoyed the video and stay tuned for more. True peace.
Trap House on the track.
Thank you.